I couldn't tell you much about it, but this is about halfway through our tour that we've been doing. Actually, we booked this whole tour around Hellfest to get here. Some of the biggest shows we've ever done in Europe, headlining, we've been on this tour, particularly in Germany, and last night we were in Paris and it was sold out. It's good.
If you're gonna do it, you better take it to the stage, or don't do it at all.
Well, the United States, I think, is just now getting hip to festivals. I mean, we've had Lollapalooza and Bonnaroo, but there haven't been a lot of other festivals. Europe has a longer history of this, and they do it better. They understand it, the ins and outs of it a little bit more professionally. And they also diverse bills. Usually in the United States, music genres have got very segregated. And it's only until recently that U.S. festivals have started modeling themselves after European festivals with a diverse bill. I mean, in the United States, you would never get Aerosmith and Death Angel at the same festival. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all rock and roll. I like playing the kind of music that I listen to, and we listen to a lot of classic rock, and a lot of those guys listen to a lot of blues. I think to me that's the most important music, because there's so much stuff from 40 years ago that I still have yet to learn about. And a lot of contemporaries, they're great, but I find the first generation to be much more interesting, and I would hope we can emulate that to some degree. Well, that changes, tour to tour, but nowadays, Gone Cold is a favorite because it's such a different song. It's an acoustic song, it's more quiet, and that's challenging to do. After playing loud for an hour, then do something very quiet. We've got hundreds of songs, and we can only play 16 or 17 or 18. But we try to make that 16 to 18 songs, we play them as passionately as we can every night. It doesn't matter if there's 50 people in a crowd or 50,000. You got to treat every show like it's the last one or the first one.
Can't seem to recall my true given name.
Well, we played with, we supported Strange Cousins for almost 4 years. And that's a slower record and it's a darker record. I think we were ready to just speed it up. And when we did and listened to the first songs we wrote, they reminded us of Last Tyrant to some degree. So we said, let's get Machine to produce this because he did a good job with that. I'm sure we'll do a good job with this.
I don't go.
Sometimes we kind of just get a structure sometimes, say we'll do, and it's usually John, Paul, Tim, and Dan. I just sit on the side drinking. But you say we'll do 12 bars of this, and then you take a solo, then we'll do 12 bars, then you take a solo, then we'll do 12 bars, and when I go into this fill, that's the cue. So there's always a structure, but those are usually the times that we write new material, because the fear of doing something unknown is a great vehicle for writing new music.
My heart is gone.
Ideally, yes, and ideally we would play all the songs on stage before we recorded them. That doesn't always happen, but that's always for the best, because what sounds great in the studio can sound shitty on stage, and vice versa. Well, there have been songs that I thought were great that turned out to be shitty, and there were songs I thought were shitty that turned out to be great. I mean, I think we have to trust our collective instinct. Sometimes if I don't really particularly care for something, but the other guys really dig it, I say, well, you know what? You're probably right. I think sincerity, and it'll always sound like Clutch because it's the same four dudes. But we still want to do something new. It was only like recently I realized we've been a band for a long time, and I think one, having a work ethic. Our goal was never to be on the cover of Rolling Stone and sell shitloads of records. All we wanted to do was do this for a living. That's it. We wake up in the morning, we either write rock and roll or we perform rock and roll, and that's it. So we know we have something very special, so don't fuck with it. And just let it continue, and that's what's kept us going.
My heart is gone. I gone cold.
Great. I mean, there's always going to be new bands, and I will say this: it's overwhelming now. There's so many bands that you get back 20 years ago. It was easier to have a good handle on what was going on because you couldn't find out. Now, I'm glad we're not a band that's trying to come up because there's so many other bands because of the internet. I would imagine it's very tough to get noticed. Yes. No one's buying records anymore. I mean, sure, the people here, we're all into rock and roll and heavy metal, and probably buy vinyl records too, but that's the exception to the rule. Most people don't give a shit. This is their record collection. So nowadays, you kind of have, a lot hasn't changed for Clutch because we never sold a lot of records to begin with. But now that we have our own label, we can sell the right amount of records to the right people. And the internet, even though it killed the traditional record industry, it also allows a band like Clutch to find those fans, press a record and say, I'll sell this to you. In the 90s we had East, West, Atlantic, Columbia, nothing ever happened. And then file sharing started and our shows got bigger. So, go figure. I think it's wonderful because, maybe if we were a band that sold millions and millions of records, I would hate it, but it's been great for us. I may not feel that way if I were trying to start a band now, but we already had a catalog of records to sell people. And we can find, people that like us now on the four corners of the earth because of the internet. And I think actually it's probably a return to the way things used to be. The idea of selling a record and making a lot of money off, that only started in the 1950s. Live music has been around for tens of thousands of years. So that's what it's really about. Well, when we've talked about getting a lighting director, because sometimes good lights, they can't help out a show, but we also kind of came up in a scene that really shunned that. DC hardcore and punk rock, you would go into a church hall and all be fluorescent lights. So you were forced to concentrate on what was going on musically. And it keeps it simple. And sure, sometimes I wish this would be a great portion to have explosions on stage, but sometimes you could do that with your guitar or your drums. And who knows, you won't find us coming out on stage in motorcycles or anything like that anytime soon. Yeah, we're writing it now. Try to record it right after the new year. We should put it out probably the fall, maybe third quarter of next year, 2015. So we're just beginning that process right now. I don't really know. That's the fun part about writing a record, is finding out what it is. And also this the frustrating part. But it's coming so close after Earth Rocker. I would imagine it will share a lot of qualities with Earth Rocker because, I mean, heck, that's only been out a year.
When it goes me to leave, child, my happy home.
We sometimes one of us writes a riff and brings it to practice and say, check out this riff, and then the other guy will say, cool, well, you know what, begin the riff on the and of 2 instead of 1, and that changes it. John Paul put a beat to it, sometimes that flips it around, and when all is said and done, the song, no one can say who wrote what. And that's a good thing, I think, because it's a band, not a individual. And then they wait for me to write lyrics, and I take forever to do it. I'm really slow.
Bang, 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 bang! Vamonos, vamonos!
You know, each one is different. Sometimes a song writes itself in a matter of, 20 minutes. Sometimes it takes 20 years, and it's I love it and hate it. It's what I live for, but it's also frustrating.
You told everybody in the neighborhood.
Everybody gets, I would hope to think everybody gets writer's block. But, you look around anywhere, you can find inspiration. It's a matter of keeping your eyes open and not getting stuck in a rut, which happens. It's all right.